19,000, snip. Western Belgium as well, they want it.
Turkey is now one of the biggest UAV producers alongside the US, Israel and China, and its drones have proven themselves on the battlefield.
My name is Charles Kupchan. I am a professor at Georgetown University and a senior fellow at the Council on Foreign Relations. Well, Turkey has developed what has proved to be a very popular and effective drone, a UAV, an unmanned aerial vehicle. Its utility has been demonstrated in Turkey, where the Turks have used these to pretty good effect to go after targets, PKK targets, Iraq, also in Syria. We've seen these drones very effective in the war between Azerbaijan and Armenia, 2020, Nagorno-Karabakh, where the Azerbaijanis really did succeed in wresting back control. Also in Libya. These drones proved to be very effective in degrading the forces of General Haftar and the Wagner-supported folks coming in from the eastern part of the country.
Drones are playing a key role in Ukraine's counter-offensive against Russia's invasion. One is proving so effective.
The event that announced Turkey's competence in its defense industry to the whole world was the war in Ukraine. It's May 2022, and the Turkish defense company Bayraktar donates 3 drones to the country's long-term ally, Ukraine. Their Bayraktar TB2 drone quickly becomes a symbol of the Ukrainian resistance against Russia, and ultimately a reference point for unmanned combat aerial vehicles.
And then since the war began, they have proved to be quite effective in going after Russian assets. These drones have good reconnaissance and surveillance capability, and they can carry laser-guided bombs as well as laser-guided rockets. And they have proved pretty lethal when it comes to Russian forces.
The company behind the renowned drone, Bayraktar Group, was founded in 1986 by Özdemir Bayraktar. The company was taken over by his sons Haluk and Selçuk Bayraktar. Under the guidance of the two brothers, Bayraktar Group is now one of the most known Turkish defense companies in the world. As the pioneers of multifunctional drone, they had a big role in Turkey's defense sales, increasing tenfold over the last 2 decades, with the export growing nearly 1,200%. The number of countries importing Bayraktar TB2 armed drones has risen to 28. Azerbaijan, Qatar, Ukraine, Poland, Lithuania, Albania, Kuwait are among those countries.
Bayraktar has a history of more than 20 years in the field of unmanned aerial system technologies, and as of now Bayraktar is the leading exporter of aerospace and defense sector of Turkey. 2022, we are the biggest exporter of Turkish defense and aerospace industry with just one product, which is Bayraktar TB2. We don't do many different type of product. We just do one, but the best in the world.
The Turkish defense industry used to be heavily dependent on international stakeholders and companies. Baykar is just one example of how the Turkish defense companies are becoming more independent and efficient by producing indigenous products, no longer having to rely on their international counterparts.
Turkey's top UAV companies have one goal: to become a global leader in unmanned aerial.
Turkish defense industry was heavily dependent on foreign imports, heavily dependent in 20 years back. But then Turkey noticed that it creates huge problems. Even if you are paying its cost, you are not free to use these assets, military assets, as you wish.
The year is 1974. Turkey launches Cyprus peace operation to rescue persecuted Turkish Cypriots to bring stability and peace to the island. Such a historical victory also happens to be the catalyst for the development of the Turkish defense industry, as the conflict between Greek and Turkish Cypriots revealed the state of the Turkish armed forces and reflected how much it is dependent on arms imports.
Actually, the wake-up sign came after the Cyprus operation. And that wake-up sign, wake-up call, made the entire country to be aware of that we have to have an indigenous defense industry. We have to stop this for independency. I'm the head of Turkish Industry Agency. It is the government organization in charge of developing, coordinating, and managing all defense industry projects.
Following the Cyprus peace operation, the then titled Turkish Land Force Support Foundation was established the same year. The great public enthusiasm at the time encouraged a significant amount of donations to newly established land, naval and air force support foundations.
That awareness started a foundation that I named as St. Turkish Armed Forces Foundation. Later, the steps were very slow, and like some companies like Aselsan and TUSAŞ was established during that stage, and Roketsan. But still, maybe prioritizing the immediate needs of the military, indigenous processes were very slow. And the main driving factor after that, with the President Recep Erdogan's government.
Turkey's journey from being a country almost entirely reliant on imports for defense to a global exporter hasn't been easy.
He was forcing this very strongly. And the main motto is anything that we can produce and manufacture and develop in Turkey, we have to do this in our country.
Rather than importing directly, Turkey started research projects, development projects, and this is 15 years back. The main milestone was in the year of 2004. At that period, Turkey was planning to acquire 1,000 tanks, a lot of attack helicopters and UAVs from foreign nations. In a decision with High Defense Executive Council, decided to embark on indigenous national projects to develop these technologies. And you see the result after 15 years with the products on the field showing themselves. So now Turkey became the #1 armed exporter.
Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan attended the inauguration ceremony for Turkey's locally developed combat aircraft Kaan. Revealing the name of the fifth-generation aircraft, President Erdogan emphasized the historical steps leading up to the latest achievement of the Turkish defense industry.
Kıbrıs Barış Harekatı sırasında yaşadıklarımız ülkemizin kendi savunma sanayini kurmasının tercihten öte bir mecburiyet olduğunu hepimize gösterdi. Ülke yönetimini devraldığımızda önceliklerimizin başına savunma sanayinin geliştirilmesini koyduğumuzda biz de pek çok görünür görünmez engelle karşılaştık. Buna rağmen yılmadık, durmadık. Hedeflerimizden bir an olsun ayrılmadık. Kamu kurumlarımızda, özel sektörümüzde, üniversitelerimizde dayanışma içinde adım adım ilerleyerek işte bugünlere geldik. O zaman yerli neydi? %20. Ve bu yerli olan savunma sanayini ne yaptık? %80'e çıkardık. Savunma sanayi asla sadece savunma sanayi değildir. Savunma sanayi demek elbette öncelikle kendi ordumuzun ihtiyaçlarını karşılayabileceğimiz tasarım ve üretim altyapısını kurmak demektir. Ama bunun ötesinde savunma sanayi ülkemizin yüksek teknoloji alanında dünyada söz sahibi olmasını sağlayacak ekosistemin lokomotifidir.
We have so many companies actually, and the number of companies serving to defense industry raised up from the number 60s and to about 2,000 right now. So it is the work of an ecosystem, and some of them are main contractors, and there are a lot of subcontractors behind them, and we are very particular to force those main contractors to have systems of subcontractors and SMEs supporting the industry, because this is the way, I guess, to have a strong base for defense industry. Some of the main companies are, the main shareholder is strengthening Turkish Armed Forces Foundation. So that foundation owns the majority shares of TUSAŞ and Aselsan, Havelsan, and Roketsan. Those are the companies serving in defense industry, but there are also some private companies like Bayraktar and BMC, STM, SDT, etc.
In order to create a self-sufficient environment, the shareholders were encouraged to work with small to medium-scale Turkish companies, even in the case of the production of the smallest components, so that they can be manufactured in Türkiye. It proved to be successful, as the indigenous defense companies reported a turnover of more than $10 billion.
And we are not really in favor of them exporting or importing some equipments and sub-components and to name the main platform as indigenous. So this is not the way.
Turkey's newest combat drones.
Several hundred projects in development covering new combat drones, aircraft, and naval ships.
I'm a retired U.S. Army general. I was NATO Supreme Allied Commander. I can't imagine NATO without Turkey. Turkey's been one of America's staunchest allies, really since the beginning of NATO. From the time that Turks and Americans fought together in the Korean War under the United Nations, and during my time in Europe and with NATO when I was a field grade officer during the Cold War, and afterwards when I was NATO Supreme Allied Commander, we could always rely on Turkey for solid support, good judgment, reinforcement of the alliance position.
397.75.
The importance of the Turkish defense industry is also linked to Turkey's geostrategic location and its cornerstone position in NATO. Any threat in Turkish borders is a threat to all NATO member countries, which makes Turkey's self-sufficiency in defense a regional case rather than local. All the Turkish efforts to develop an indigenous defense industry are as relevant to other member countries of NATO.
I know a lot of people in Turkey, and there's a lot of very smart, talented, industrious people in Turkey. Turkey, for years, was the fastest growing member of NATO economically, but we certainly respect everything that was done for the Turkish economy. It's just natural the defense industry would grow. Why not? Because it's important for Turkey. It's also important as a source of export earnings. So Turkey's defense industry is highly respected.
Türkiye took into account its strategic position and role as a regional player and refused to be indifferent as the events of the Russian-Ukrainian war unfolded by donating Bayraktar TB2 drones to help defending the Ukrainian territory.
From the beginning, the arrangements that Turkey and Ukraine had have been absolutely crucial. The Bayraktar drones, for example, were really a critical contribution early on, not only because they did serve to attack Russian armor that was coming into Kyiv, but even more importantly, but because they showed international commitment to the defense of Ukraine's territorial integrity. So I think that was really important.
As the Ukrainian foreign minister appeals for more firepower, weaponized drones are playing a crucial role in shaping the conflict. This one was built in Turkey by a company called Bayraktar.
Так, якщо ми говоримо про БПЛА оперативно-тактичного рівня, саме ударні БПЛА, такі, якими є сьогодні ТБ-2 Байрактар, то аналогів таких у нас сьогодні немає. У нас немає сьогодні ударних дронів подібного класу, які можуть бути такими багатоцільовими, мати широкий спектр завдань. Це повітряна розвідка, це цілевказання, це ударні функції. Україна сьогодні такого дрона не має, не зробила. Хоча планувались, були такі потуги наших підприємств, щоб це зробити. І він з'являється таким унікальним сьогодні в своєму класі.
You know, in Europe there were some campaigns to collect donations and buy Bayraktar TB2s and donate them to Ukraine. It started first in Lithuania, then it moved on with Ukraine, Sergei Prutula Foundation, and then in Poland, and then in other countries. And we thought that we have been affected by hundreds of thousands of Europeans, such a very hard condition. We as Baykar, who is friend of Ukraine, we shall not behave like maximizing our revenue or profit, but rather it's the correct time for us to show our utmost support for Ukraine as a nation. So we said to all these campaigners, we will not receive this money. Just use this money for the sake of Ukraine, to support them in their humanitarian needs and for the support of Ukraine. We will donate the Bayraktar TB2s. And we have donated officially 5 units just through these campaigns to Ukraine. And I think Baykar is the only company without accepting any funds, directly donating its products.
Ну, взагалі ми цінуємо усю допомогу турецького народу, турецького уряду, яку надають Україні постійно, як наша держава-сусід, як наша держава-партнер для України. Співпраця так почалась ще задовго до цього вторгнення. Також треба однозначно подякувати Туреччині за оце те, що було надано Україні, що допомагає нам боротися з російською агресією. Це і боєприпаси, і певні радіолокаційні системи, і амуніція. Все це, і автомобільний транспорт, все це Туреччина передала в Україні.
Definitely, Turkish defense industry, it is in a sustained manner is rising. In the last 7 years, Turkey has invested a lot on this sector. Turkey has invested a lot on research and development. When you look at the exports, there is a 15% growth of every year in real terms on the exports, and also Turkish products have shown itself on the field. They are field proven, they are robust, and they have their successes on the field. It's not only the UAVs, there is the munitions, there are the radars, ships, and marine, all sorts of equipments. They show their successes on the fields, and that of course attracts a lot of attention. But especially, specifically in the Ukraine case, Turkey, with its support, and it's really shown itself.
Туреччина сьогодні є гравцем регіонального рівня, так, на Близькому Сході, на Середньому Сході. Тому співпраця з цією країною є дуже важливою, і ті зразки озброєння, які змогла створити Туреччина за останні десятиліття, вражають справді, і Україна могла б стати теж разом з Туреччиною в цьому строю, так.
As a key member of NATO, Turkey continues acting like a bridge between East and the West, or between Russia and the alliance itself. This was the case recently with the Russian-Ukrainian war, as Turkey kept its balancing act by maintaining good relations with Russia for the welfare of the NATO members.
Turkey is, in some ways, walking a tightrope. And it's a tightrope that, in some ways, emerges from its geographic and geopolitical position. Turkey is a bridge state between Europe and Asia. It's also a bridge between Europe and the Middle East. And that puts Turkey in a position to, in some ways, have its cake and eat it too. On the one hand, stay attached to NATO, and on the other hand, flirt with the Kremlin. And I think that everybody needs Turkey.
I would also say this, that holding open the Bosphorus for shipments of grain and being able to work the grain corridor is also very significant.
Turkish Aerospace Industries has begun ground tests of a stealthy fifth-generation air support.
So what's happening? What we are doing? Actually, we have indigenous products, and in terms of the export from Turkey nowadays, is going very well. What I mean on it is increase year to year. You don't believe on it. It's close to 40%, 38%. You know. Temel Kotil, CEO of Turkish Aerospace. We're a nice company. We have 13,000 employees and became the 16th end of this year. So this means our work is going very well.
With an increasingly leading position in the global defense rankings, the future of the Turkish defense industry looks brighter than ever. 7 defense firms in global top 100. From 62 defense projects in 2002 to 750 defense projects in 2022. From a $248 million export revenue in 2002 to a $4.4 billion export revenue in 2022. The ambition of the Turkish defense industry continues to expand.
Anka is famous. It's sold all over the world, and so many countries using to defend, they go against the terrorism and so on. Aksungur, twin engine of them, very successful. And the Turkish was selling very well in the worldwide, and it's also protecting countries. And the attack is famous by nature, you know. And we're selling very well and operate in Turkey and protect Turkey also. And the Gökbey, that's a famous helicopter. We go to the serial production. The first delivery is going to Turkish Jandarma. It's general purpose helicopters, and we're offering to so many countries, even assembly and manufacture in their own countries, you know. Right now preparing Attack 2, which is larger version of Attack. The fighter on the first flight coming end of this year, and hopefully on the market by 28, inshallah. And we're making satellite, observation communication satellite already, and doing a good business as an export also, is on the market also, both. And so we're doing a lot of aerostructure and so on. That's basically our portfolio today.
Traditionally well-known arms manufacturer countries also started to show interest in Turkish products, the most prominent one being an ongoing relationship with the United Kingdom.
Yes, there is a lot of interest from other nations to cooperate and work with us on this technology. Baykar right now is the world's biggest armed drone exporter, exported to more than 28 countries. And with United Kingdom, we have an ongoing relationship, especially Minister Ben Wallace, Minister of Defense of UK, has a unique interest on these newly emerging technologies. He mentioned it during his speeches, and thanks to him, he visited us in our exhibition Saha Expo last November 2022.
The Turkish defense industry supports developing countries and has military agreements with Togo and Ethiopia. Meanwhile, Tunisia, Morocco, Somalia and Libya are among the African nations that purchase from the Turkish defense industry.
So Turkey is a little bit lucky because the effort Turkey start putting together on the early beginning of the century, early 20s, you know, it paying back.
We could always rely on Turkey for solid support, good judgment, reinforcement of the alliance position.
Turkey's defense export portfolio has reached 170 countries, including but not limited to the United Kingdom, Saudi Arabia, Hungary, Serbia, Slovakia, Latvia, Bosnia and Herzegovina and Uruguay.
And the main motto is anything that we can produce, we have to do this in our country.
With the country aiming to produce the imported fighter jets and aircraft systems within its borders, with its manufacturers and designed by its engineers.
We're not arrogant, you know. We are down to earth. We are the grassroots.
The ambition of the Turkish defense industry continues to expand as new projects are unveiled.
Turkey believed its entrepreneurs, believed its nation, and Turkey invested in this sector. It was a big responsibility for us, and we have achieved that.